and Aaron Taliaferro. Ms. Figueroa, you're in the pole position over there. Welcome back. You know this, but get close to that mic since you're on the end. Introduce yourself and go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Luis Figueroa. I'm the Chief of Legislative Affairs for Every Texan. I appreciate this opportunity to testify against Senate Bill 8. And I will say, to start off things, I do think this is a much stronger bill than Senate Bill 4 last session in terms of constitutionality. And in terms of legality, we still think it's blurring the lines between the role of the federal government and local and state government. But I did want to address a few concerns that I think can be cleaned up in some amendments, and I'd really love to appreciate working with your office, Senator Schwartner, on some what we think would be improvements to the bill. One, I will say that putting the cost on counties and moving that shift from the feds to the counties is problematic, but I understand where you're coming from on that, particularly since many counties already do it in the jails. Which leads me to my second improvement is if we could put some language in there that does limit it to jails, because I do think that's where most of the testimony and most of the counties have been talking about, and I do think that that is where it is most likely applied in terms of a 287 MOU agreement. And then secondly, we would ask of you just make sure that the MOU includes some training in there. A lot of times they already do. It's pretty rare for it not to include trainings, but if it was in the bill itself, I think that'd be an improvement. And then we would also ask that the large counties need help too. We understand that these counties over 1 million have large budgets, but they also have a lot of mandates on them. They have a lot of costs on them. Just appreciate if we could support counties, even if it was a lesser amount, because these big counties need support and they have a lot of mandates on them already. So those are the major concerns we have. If we could just improve the bill by being clear on what should be in the MOU, and if we could be clear in terms of the cost sharing, I think it would dramatically improve the bill. Overall, we're just concerned about the blurring of county, city, state, and federal government in the role of immigration. Our Constitution does put the majority of the enforcement on the federal side. This is where it should be. Thank you so much for this opportunity. We look forward to working with you all.
And thanks, Ms. Figueroa. And Senator Schwartner has questions. You're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would your organization support the bill with those changes?
If we could get those bills, I think we could let it go. I mean, honestly, we're already doing it in the jails for the most part. If we could limit this to jails, that would be a very strong improvement to the bill, and we'd love to work with you on that.
So y'all don't like the task force or the warrant service officer?
That's right.
The 287Gs. All right.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Welcome. Introduce yourself and go.
My apologies. Thank you. Chairman Hughes and members of the committee, my name is Roberto Lopez, and I'm a senior advocacy manager with the Texas Civil Rights Project. Our work with immigrant communities around the state gives us an important perspective on how dangerous SB8 is, and that's why I'm testifying against SB8 today. Mandatory 287G agreements, we believe, will cost counties in the state of Texas millions of dollars. Under these agreements, state and local governments are responsible for all personnel costs associated with immigration enforcement. In 2010, a 287G agreement cost Mecklenburg County in North Carolina $5.3 million. In Prince William County, Maryland, population 480,000, their 287G agreement cost the county $6.4 million over 1 year, and the county cut over $3 million in funding for other items like video cameras for police cars. Harris County, was mentioned earlier, ended its 287G agreement after the sheriff determined that he could keep the county safer by spending the $675,000 devoted to the program elsewhere, especially when programs like the criminal alien program already exist to deport people arrested by local law enforcement, and it's been mentioned again and again that ICE already exists in county jails. These agreements make our communities less safe. They take law enforcement off the line from investigating dangerous crimes to have them process people for largely civil immigration violations. Furthermore, multiple Department of Justice studies have shown that Task Force Model 287G agreements, like those currently on offer, have led to widespread racial profiling. In Maricopa County in Arizona, it was found that in certain areas, Latino drivers were 9 times more likely to get stopped than non-Latino drivers after the agreements came on. Finally, I want to point out that the bill requires counties to accept agreements, quote, as offered by the federal government. That means the federal government sets the terms. Perhaps this sounds good right now, but this law is not limited to the duration of the current administration. In 4 years, a new administration could take power and require the counties to sign very different agreements than the ones currently offer. This law amounts to selling our local law enforcement to the federal government. Thank you so much for your time, and again, we oppose SB8.
And thanks for your testimony. Welcome. Introduce yourself and go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. My name is David Chinkanchin. I serve as the Policy Director for Workers' Defense, and I'm here to speak in opposition to Senate Bill 8. Senate Bill 8 will make us less safe because it is a massive spending mandate that will drain our limited local public safety resources. It would force our local sheriffs to, quote, request and as offered, enter into a written agreement with ICE. Without room for negotiation, sheriffs will have to accept any terms for any reason. And with no limit on the terms, there will be no limit on how many of our local tax dollars will be wasted on this, instead of on real public safety solutions. SB8 will make us less safe because it will force our local law enforcement officials to shift their focus away from keeping our communities safe to go play the role of federal ICE agents. Instead of helping people in our communities, their job will be to separate families and tear them apart in our own neighborhoods. SB8 will make us less safe because it will break down any hard-earned trust between local law enforcement and our immigrant communities. Immigrants will be less likely to report crimes, seek the help of law enforcement, or work with them to address issues in our communities for fear of deportation for themselves and their families. It means that people in dangerous situations will have to remain in dangerous situations. It means that local law enforcement efforts will be hindered and criminals and abusers will be given an advantage to continue to harm, abuse, and exploit vulnerable people. Please do not tie the hands of our democratically local elected officials. Do not overburden our local law enforcement officials. And please do not use our local tax dollars to make our communities less safe, to spread fear, and to separate families. Please vote no on Senate Bill 8.
Thanks for your testimony.